Hello and welcome to our episode 6 review of The Acolyte. My name is Dean.
My name is Joey.
And we're just fresh off watching it. We finished it about 10 minutes ago. And we're just going to give our initial thoughts. We'll be reviewing every episode, so kind of stay tuned for that. Joe, I don't know where you want to start.
We open up with this episode on a unknown planet, as they referred to it. And we'll start right from there, which was like the biggest, one of the only positives for me of the episode was that the scenery I thought looked really good. I like that we're getting away from all the like desert-based planets, which has been a ton of Disney Star Wars. Feels like we're always at Tatooine or a planet that looks very similar to it. So I did really like the look of the previous planet that we were on, where the whole fight scene happened, and I actually even more so like the one where we open up with Osha now on this unknown planet with the Sith
Chimera
guy, if we want to call him that. At this point, I guess we can. The Disney is calling him, or Lucasfilm, whatever, is calling him a Sith. So, yeah, we'll just refer to him as that. Wakes up on this unknown planet that I thought, scenery-wise, looked really cool. So, just to get that, out of the way, that was my one positive of the episode. And yeah, really, from there we find out that this Sith character was, now we know, once a Jedi. That was I think a big takeaway, like plot wise, that we got from that scene on that planet. And yeah, you have anything to add?
Which is something I brought up last episode. I thought it was pretty obvious that he was a Jedi, and people were saying the opposite. I didn't understand that.
I wasn't sold on that either, actually. It did give some of those like vibes when he was, and I mean, there's a whole bunch more to get into with Master Soul now that, like, I don't know, like I think your theory from last week is starting to gain a little more credence. Like, there's something clearly going on with Master Soul, but I don't know how they're going to actually tie that in with him not recognizing this Sith guy. I don't know if there's a connection there at all. Like the way that like Osha said it is like, oh, well, you were a Jedi, like I'd never heard of you, basically, and he's like, a very long time ago. Meanwhile, the guy, he looks like he's like 30 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like, how long ago is long?
Yeah.
Was it for like a year?
Yeah, I mean, do we want to get into like theories already? Because I already have the theory of who his master was.
No, we don't have to.
I'm changing it from Soul. So
okay. So let's just theories for later. Let's.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
It was a filler episode. First off, that planet, is that the same planet that Luke was on in Last Jedi? That's what the vibe I got.
No, that was Batu, I think that was called.
Yeah, but this was just saying unknown planet.
At this point, I mean, I guess you could go with the logic.
That's clearly the vibe. That's clearly the vibe they were giving.
Which, like, I mean, if they're, I don't know.
Well, they're flipping the script. They're trying to make Kimir and now Osha, I guess, into the good guys, and then Soul and May will be the bad guys, and whatever the green, I don't know the name, sorry, the Green Master Jedi is. But again, I don't love. First off, does not look like $180 million show. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. Some of the CGI is terrible, like the ship CGI when the ship docks into like the hyperspace.
That was very like noticeable to me. But part of me was like, were they trying to do that on purpose to look more like older Star Wars, like to give it that feel? Maybe that's giving too much credit again.
Yeah, I think that's giving way too much credit. I think it just looks bad.
Listen, it doesn't look like $180 million, budget to me, but like I said, the one thing that I did notice that was enjoyable was actually the scenery. I'm actually not 100% sure if I'm assuming certain parts of this they are filming in the I'm blanking on the name of like that dome that they used to film Mando and some of these other shows.
That's where like all the battles from the last episode were in that.
Which works in some ways, but like in other ways they're probably cheaping out by using that in like, you know, in a lot of ways where it doesn't give you in certain scenes like the depth that you really want.
Everyone was in love with that when Mandalorian initially came out. Now people are critiquing it a lot. I don't really feel
I think it looks good.
strong
Like
way.
the I don't know, the overall like the aesthetic of like the planets and stuff looks really good from that. But certain scenes, and you notice this in, I think it was Obi-Wan, I believe, where just like it didn't feel as grand of like a scene at certain times when there was times where they probably shouldn't have used it. But anyway, let's I guess we'll get back on track with like following up the linear story of this, and then we'll, as we said, get to more of the theories and things like that after. So at first I was really getting annoyed. I was like, is this how they're gonna basically play around explaining the whole Jedi not finding out about the Sith thing? We then basically cut to like a scene with Sol on the ship with now May. At this time he doesn't know, and they're having technical difficulties and he can't get his message across, or so we think. He can't get his message across to the Jedi Council. And I'm like, really? Like, if this is going to be the workaround for like how the Jedi don't know that there's a Sith just because we're having technical issues on the ship and he can't send the message? Turns out we find out later on that the message does get through, which I don't know if he fully knows. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything you want to talk about in that portion before we get to like the, I guess, the later parts of the episode?
Yeah, I thought the same thing that you thought, where it was going to be like the cop out to them not finding out that it was a Sith, which I still think they're just gonna go the cover up route at this point.
Meaning
That's
what? Killing everyone
vibe.
off, or
well, killing everyone off, framing. We won't get to that. Yeah, I'll say it in a moment, but I think they hinted at who's going to be framed, and they hinted at who's kind of like the big bad. Now they're saying there's supposed to be another Sith.
I heard that as well. Who was saying that?
The writer director lady.
Okay, all right,
whatever her name is.
Yeah. See, that's not shocking to me. I kind of spoke about that last week. It just only made sense, but I guess it all depends on who that is, and like if we get like a cool cameo, or not even really a cameo, maybe just a character that we've never seen on film, on screen yet, such as Tenebris, or at this time most likely would be Plagueis. That could be really cool. And what I was kind of saying last week, that like if they went this route, which it's up in the air and I doubt that they will, and I've now all of a sudden heard other people talking about this, not saying it was because of our video or anything, but that this guy could potentially be a candidate to be like the apprentice to someone like Plagueis, or maybe his former apprentice who, like I said, tries to usurp him with training his own apprentice and then trying to take out Plagueis, and then Plagueis just ends up wiping them both out. That would be, I think, like the coolest way they could end this show. And then you have Palpatine that comes in as the true apprentice to Plagueis. Again, I doubt
there's 2 episodes left.
Exactly. So I doubt they'll go there, unless like you kind of get like that like very climactic cameo, like a Fallen Order type of thing, where like Darth Vader just shows up for the very last level and just kills off this, like your big bad from the game itself, and then all of a sudden like the actual guy shows up and shows just how much more powerful he truly is.
Yeah,
and like just one swipe just takes out this. Yeah, again, like that would be what I would do. I think that would be really cool, but it's yet to be seen. So,
well, I think most fans could write a better show than this. Honestly, it's been very It's been very predictable. I tweeted this, and I'll just read the tweet. I just don't understand. Okay, so I said, look, I don't want to hate on the Acolyte because I don't. Because I actually, at the beginning of this episode, I was like, I'm kind of into this. I don't know if you felt that way.
I did too.
15 minutes in,
after last episode,
I was like, okay, like this is just dragging a little. You can't have $180 million 8-episode. It's really only supposed to be one season. I don't see why there's another filler episode because there's been like mostly filler episodes to this point.
I think they should have at least given us, and so we'll go into like I guess now the Master Soul thing where like he finds out it's May. Obviously, he hits her with like the stun gun. I think they should have at least.
Can I pause real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to say it before we move on because it's gonna be we're changing the who's good and bad, right? Soul is kind of being presented almost as like the somewhat villain, and Kimir is being presented as the tragic hero, or whatever you want to call him. Like I don't know if tragic hero is necessarily the right word, but I just wrote, can we stop making evil killers into tragic characters? Yeah, Kimir has nice hair. They showed him naked or shirtless. Okay, why? No reason. Yeah. Like why other than to show the scar, I guess, which they don't address then and they address later in the episode when he's working on the helmet. So why they have him go naked into that pond?
Yeah,
not sure. I said he has nice hair, but he killed like 8 people an hour ago. So can we maybe not overlook that? Like he literally just killed 8 people.
Yeah.
Hour ago, and she's already okay. Like
I mean, she calls him out.
You killed my friends.
Yeah.
You killed my friends too. All right, like maybe I'm starting to like jive with what you're saying. I like that's just too. That's way too quick. Quick.
It felt a little rushed. That whole arc there. She does try to call him out a little bit in like the initial conversation, but yeah, that was something that I had written down that I hated how again we're going into when she says it's the path to the dark side and he says semantics, and it's like no, it's not. Like this is what we talked about last week. It's not just like a semantic thing of like, oh well, that's what the Jedi call us. Like no, it's cut and dry. You and he said it himself. Anger, loss, pain, like these when you tap into these emotions,
desire.
It's like yeah, and like these are clearly bad. Like it's to me it's very cut and dry. Like it's not a semantics game as he flat out says it in this episode again. So there was a little bit of pushback from Osha, but like yeah, not enough because within the next cutscene, which is not a huge time jump, she's already like she's back kind of like toying with the idea of being on his side.
It's not toying. It's what's going to happen. So we'll jump back to the other part, which is Soul. Right? It's obvious that's going to happen. Yeah. Soul, who obviously knew the entire time. I think he knew the entire time it was May. I don't think.
Yeah.
He just
do you think
it
so?
Out.
I hope so. I would hope so because it's just there's so many flaws with that. But
yeah, that's what I wrote. I said, "Thank God Soul knew it was May." I'm going with he knew if he only figured it out at the end there where she was like, tell me about my past, then I'm like, what? Like
they like with things like with scenes like that, they have not done a good job of portraying what the characters know versus what the audience knows and like what their true motives are. Like they've done a poor job with that in my opinion because yeah, you're like it's very unclear if he knew from the beginning. I don't know. And the interesting thing that I was actually starting to write down in my notes was that he's talking about like how did I miss this pure villain's like motives and how did I not recognize him or sense him? I think what he's alluding to is like sense him in the Force the day prior when I met him. Yet meanwhile at that point we don't know that he knows it's May. So it's like that's kind of contradictory where I was like he's complaining about this yet meanwhile you're standing in front of someone and you can't sense that it's not the person that you think it is.
Leads to your point, maybe he didn't realize it was her, which just I hate that as well. So
yeah, or maybe he did and I'm misreading it, so that's why he's bringing up that conversation. I don't know. But yes, then again, like, I get it. They're building suspense and whatever, so we're not really supposed to know this, but in general, I think they've done a bad job of like letting. I mean, even with the character of May, like her motives and her desires, I guess, just changing on a whim within one episode of like, I'm gonna turn myself into the Jedi, and then all of a sudden she starts going, and then she's against the Jedi again, and now she's like, all I care about is my sister, and now I'm on the Jedi side. Like, it's just very like, it just feels very loose in regards to that. But that being said, my point is, with Master Soul, yeah, they're definitely trying to do the spin that like he committed this act because they finally realized that, oh, these people were killed by lightsaber. So I think they are going to go that route of framing Soul. But then I also got the sort of feeling when he had May, May locked down on that chair, and they were getting into the topic of what happened on their home planet with the witches, that like, I don't know, maybe Master Soul does have a dark past, or currently is an actual bad guy. I think that's also a possibility. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe that was like a purposeful misdirection in that scene, but
I think
just...
the green lady. So let's give our score, because
Okay.
I think let's do that, and then I just want to jump into the theory. So, but
yeah,
the theory is going to be past the score. So I gave last episode 4.5. I can't give this episode higher than that because there was no lightsaber action.
Yeah.
So lightsaber once. So I'm going to go
4.1. Okay. I was going to go 4 flat.
I'm not gonna,
but I wasn't saying to your score, because I was going to go 4 flat, but that just reminded me of a point that I also did have written down, that what's her name? Gives into the temptation a little bit, drawing on her dark side, whatever, pulls out the lightsaber, and that lightsaber looked horrible. It looked like the toy. It looked like the toy that I had in 2001 in my basement with the lights off. Like, it was.
That's because it is. It's not.
I mean, but I didn't notice it as much in the previous episode
because it was dark. They are doing like those.
They at
are
least
like
had like more of like the white core that like we know lightsabers to have, where like this was just straight up, it just looked like a red piece of plastic being lit up from the inside, and that's been
is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, and that's been the issue with a lot of the lightsaber look in Disney Star Wars, but I didn't find it to be that bad previously in this show. This was just like they went right back to their old ways, and it looked one of the worst I've seen, probably.
Yeah, and it was only for 10 seconds, so they probably didn't want to spend the money to make it look good. So I'm 4.1, you're 4. I don't know if I'm gonna go higher than this at this point, unless they have a crazy episode that changes my mind. I think that green lady, that's what I'm calling her.
Mm-hmm.
I think her apprentice was Kimir, whatever his name is, because she's got the whip lightsaber. Well, what other reason are they going to show the whip lightsaber other than they show the scar, which was a whip scar, or
Very good point.
Scar, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then they show her using the whipped lightsaber to kill a bug. What other reason are they going to show that? So yeah, these writers are just not. They're making everything very obvious.
Yeah.
For a show that you would think, again, like they show the dead bodies. They cut to the dead bodies, and that was kind of dark. That's something you usually don't see, and at least they're gonna bury them, which I thought that was kind of messed up in the last episode that he just left all the bodies.
That's another thing. Like I need to re-study a little bit of my lore. As well, I mean, really the only example that I'm calling on is like the Phantom Menace, where the Qui-Gon Jinn was cremated. I want to say that, like, as far as we know, I think Jedi were mostly cremated. I'm not going to say always. Again, I have to like touch up on the lore, but like it's just a small whatever nitpicky thing. But I don't know
Well, in
ever
the
hearing of
movie's the only
Jedi
one,
being buried. Like we've seen a lot of cremation in Star Wars. And that's typically the way that they
or they just
do
fade
it.
away. Yeah, no, well, I'm sure there's something in Legends, not even canon, that would explain that. But yeah. So my only theory right now is May's gonna turn good, Osha will turn bad. The Green Lady will be kind of like the quote unquote villain, I guess, of the story. They're clearly not making Kimir the villain, even though he's the one who just murdered a bunch of people. They're gonna say that the Jedi's murdered a bunch of people as well. Everyone's gray. That's just gonna be the
that's why like
no one's good and no one's bad.
They're not true in my eyes. They're not true Sith, and that was another just talking point that I had written down, was that like Kimir just doesn't feel evil enough to me. Like even when he's trying to like seduce Osha to the dark side or whatever, he's just like not selling me. Or even certain scenes where he's by himself, or like the big reveal last episode when his helmet gets knocked off. I've heard some other people commenting about this as well, and I feel the same way. It's just like he is still the same. Like someone like Sidious, for example, is a completely different character than Palpatine. The mask that he's wearing of Chancellor Palpatine is like kind of like this like quirky, eccentric sort of guy. But then when the mask comes off and he reveals that he's Sidious, he's like truly evil. Like he's like a real life like devil. This guy, when the mask literally comes off of him, he's still like the same kind of like quippy, like cracking jokes and just like not serious sort of a guy. But it's like now the mask is off, like you're the bad guy and you're like revealing yourself. You feel like you should be a little bit more intimidating, not like so lackadaisical, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think my last kind of thought is, I think that the writers really wanted to do this twin thing, and by doing this twin thing, they've put themselves in a box now where I don't think they really know what to do. It's like, oh yeah, it'd be really cool if like they were separated, then one went bad, then one went good, but then they flipped, and then the good one became bad, and the bad one became good. But now they're like, that's a cool concept, but how do we do it? And they just didn't think about how to do it. They
don't have much time to tie this all up. So
no, and it's only 2 episodes, and that's the thing. It's like an episode like this that just became complete filler. I'm trying to think of where you can cut it, but again, like they spent so much time on the ship, walking around,
but yet there wasn't enough. But it still felt rushed, like where, like to your point, that it just felt too quick. That Osha was just like coming to terms or entertaining the idea of maybe joining up with this guy or seeing his side of things.
They're rushing it, but that's because they're just not using time. Like we're like following Kimir to slowly to his bath, and then we're slowly walking around the ship, and then we're slowly walking around the Jedi Temple. Like just get to the you want to do it quick, but like you have whatever half an hour, and you're using like 10 minutes of that for dialogue. The rest is just like wah. Like I just don't. I don't know. We're in a box now.
You know, another quick side note, nitpick sort of a thing. We're in. It's only 100 years before the Phantom Menace, so like to me, Coruscant shouldn't look that different, and I believe that's where we're supposed to be with this main group of Jedi's, the Jedi Council,
the Jedi Temple,
and it just like that.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
It doesn't look like Coruscant to me. It's not giving me that feeling. Even when they went to like the bay where like the ships were, just like I don't know.
Jeremy John said that it was like Coruscant from 25 years ago, and the Phantom Menace looks better than Coruscant in $180 million TV show.
Right, and the reason I said that we're only 100 years canon wise, like prior to that, is because I'm sure that would be the excuse that they would come up with. It would be like, well, it was 100 years ago, so it didn't look the same as you know nostalgia nerds like remember it. Like, no, it's like really not that long in like Star Wars years. Like, that's not a long time. Like, it should look the same.
Yeah, and again, it just looks bad. But if you say it looks bad and they're being lazy, they're going to say that VFX artists are being overworked, and that's why it looks terrible. So it's like you'll just be attacked regardless. So we'll wrap it up here. I got a 4.1. Joey's got a 4. I'm looking forward to it. Like I was excited to watch.
I felt the same.
I knew we were talking about it.
Yeah.
And for the first 15 minutes, I was like, or first like 10 minutes, I was like, all right, maybe we're gonna get something. Maybe we're gonna get something somewhere this episode, and just nothing. So I don't feel like in a 1 season 8 episode show there should be this much filler, and I feel like there's a lot. So that's my final thought. Joe, do you have anything else?
No, I would totally agree with that. It's like to use, they're not using their time wisely, and they could have at least, I think, maybe like fleshed out that whole thing to make it feel more organic. This shift now with the twins, like we were talking about, flipping from dark side to light side. But yeah, I felt the same way. I felt hopeful putting on this episode for the first time. I think just because of episode 5 was, like I said last week, so much fun that I am hopeful for the next, for the climax of the series, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. All right. So we're still Yugi-Centric. We have to figure out how to rebrand. We're going to still be doing Yu-Gi-Oh!, but we would obviously be like to reviewing these shows so we can watch them together and all that good stuff. So follow, like, all that good stuff.
All right. Bye.
Bye.